This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome to the Thom Hartmann Program. I'm Alex Lawson, filling in for Tom, who just today flew from Berlin to Svalbard, above the Arctic Circle, and that's where the Doomsday Seed DNA Bank is located and supported by the Norwegian government. And he wanted to just let everybody know where he is in he's working on a documentary on climate change. And he notes that the fjords are melting at a shocking rate right now, which is wreaking havoc on his trip and on the production. So you're stuck with me for a few more days here on the Thom Hartmann Program. Luckily, it's a very slow news week. So I feel like, we have that at least. Clearly, that's not true. And just yesterday, there was a bombshell. It's very difficult to really highlight the magnitude, the enormity of what just happened yesterday. I'm still trying to wrap my head around the fact that Donald Trump fired Comey, the head of the FBI, which is conducting an active investigation into seemingly the president and his campaign and their connections, collusions, or what with Russia. And President Trump fired him yesterday with a completely ridiculous and unbelievable reasoning that he gave. Again, it's just such a huge story. I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around it, which is why I'm extremely happy that I have Rep. Mark Pocan from the great state of Wisconsin on the phone with me to maybe help me figure out what's going on with this story and how it impacts everything else happening today. Mark Pocan, thank you so much for joining us on the Thom Hartmann Program.
Oh, glad to be here, Alex.
So you heard my intro. It's just it's a lot. There's a lot going on. So do you have any insights into this that you'd like to share with our audience here?
Well, we've talked about this, pretty much every week that I've been on Tom's program. There's been more and more that just keeps dripping out around the Russian involvement with our elections. I mean, that is an unequivocal fact at this point. 17 intelligence agencies have put out reports saying that, the parts that were made public and some that hasn't yet been. But what I think we keep finding out, thanks to a lot of really good journalism that's out there, is we're finding more and more people involved with the Trump campaign, with the Trump administration, even the Trump family. When Jared Kushner met with the Russian ambassador, kind of in a non-front door way over at Trump Tower. I mean, just when you start looking at all of the information that's out there, and then you see something like this, first a couple justice officials were let go who were involved in some sort of capacity around this issue, and now the director of the FBI, for the most ridiculous of offered reasons, it's just at a point where now we're seeing serious Republicans starting to say, look, this is hitting, special prosecutor territory. Not all Republicans, clearly, but I think you're finding those more independent ones who, are just looking at this going, you just can't look at something like this. And while the FBI is investigating you, you fire the director. It just seems so unbelievable that it does seem unbelievable, maybe because it is unbelievable.
So I just am reading a tweet from a reporter who said she asked John McCain who he wants to see as the next director of the FBI, and his response was a select committee, which I think that shows where some people are on the discussion. Where we are, to me, is we're long past the point where an independent prosecutor, a special prosecutor, it's just the only way that the American people can at all be satisfied that that what needs to be done for an investigation of this magnitude is being done free of political interference. Do you feel like the Democrats are unified in a position around that?
I'm certainly starting to hear Democrats say that there should be no confirmation of a new FBI director until they get the special prosecutor, because to me that is an absolute must, and I would encourage them to go that route. We have got to get this in place. And quite honestly, if Donald Trump has nothing to do with any complicit activity, his campaign, his administration, himself, then he should welcome this as well to clear the air so he can move ahead. But, let's face it, he's had a administration on training wheels. They're not accomplishing a whole lot. The only thing they've been able to accomplish so far now seems to be this awful health care bill that 24 hours ago was what everyone was talking about. And now all of a sudden the conversation shifted for the newest travesty within this administration. If President Trump is serious and not having anything to do from his campaign or any level around complicity with what the Russians did, this would be what could clear the air for him so he could move forward. So it's a time that we just have to force this, and I hope the Senate Democrats do force this issue.
So speaking to the grassroots, I feel like right now it's crystallized on this one. There's just no... I feel like the calls have to be clear, clarion, and just hammer Senate offices right now that without a special prosecutor, there is going to be no movement on anything else. I feel it's the validity of almost everything is questioned now. It's questionable. It's difficult for me to, Mitch McConnell, I believe, said something around the president can fire whoever he wants. Now let's get back to business. That's not true. The president of the United States has to answer to the same laws that you or I or any other citizen of the United States has to answer to. And that's one of the things that makes America America. And until we see a special prosecutor, I don't feel like we're seeing a valid kind of setup for moving on any other legislative priority or any of other priority that the president might have.
No, I agree, Alex. If he fired Comey because of the investigation, that's obstructing justice.
Right.
Maybe what we need at this point is an impeachment clock, like we have a doomsday clock, because I think yesterday we moved an hour closer. And I think that people have got to keep every option on the table to make this administration do the right thing. And if I was someone right now in a district, I would be calling my elected officials saying, support a special prosecutor publicly, or within the next week do a town hall and explain why you won't. And I think it's got to be that clear and that definitive to make sure that people are being accountable.
Representative Mark Pocan from the great state of Wisconsin. It's just hard to say, oh, well, what else is going on when they're, but it's just, that seems to be the world that we're in. I thought that Monday was this really heavy news day. And then, so I know there are a lot of other things going on. You mentioned Trump Care and the travesty of the bill. And I think it's a tragedy because if that bill were to become law, there would be loss of life over it. It would be, it would rip health care away from people, millions, tens of millions of people, raid Medicare, destroy Medicaid, all to give massive tax cuts to the wealthy. And 217 Republicans voted for it. And now they're ducking their constituents at home, and because they know this vote is toxic that they just took. So what are you seeing?
Travesty. That's the real travesty, that 14 of the 217 people who voted for this thing are doing town halls this week, and the other 203 people are ducking their constituents. And I did 2 town halls on Monday in 2 parts of my district. 80% of what we talked about, that people came to talk about, was the health care bill. They're concerned that they're going to lose health care. And people didn't like the bill when it first came out. It got even worse, and that's the bill they passed. And people are truly concerned about this. So, one of the things that I'm doing, working with the groups like PCCC and Indivisible and others, in a group in Kenosha, Wisconsin, my hometown, called Forward Kenosha, that just started in January. They have 1,700 followers on Facebook already in a town of about 100,000 people. They invited Paul Ryan and I to do a town hall this Friday in Paul's district. Paul declined, but I did not. So I'm going there Friday. I'm going to explain the bill because I think people need to hold your members of Congress accountable. My mom lives there. My cousins live there. My classmates from high school live there, and their children and their grandchildren. I don't think it's fair that he's going around the country raising money from billionaires for Republicans across the country instead of talking to his constituents about an awful health care bill he's put forward.
And I really like that tactic, and I hope that more Democrats, and I could even see candidates for office taking that up, that if the Republican members are going to duck their constituents, which, I think we can be straightforward on that. What they're really saying there is they're gambling that they can skate through, keep their jobs because the money will keep flowing in because of the vote that they took. And if they just duck their constituents, they'll still have full bank accounts to run their campaigns. And so it's literally a choice. They chose Wall Street, big insurance, big pharma money over the people. I love the idea of Democrats sitting into town halls when the Republicans won't face their constituents, who, let's be straightforward on that as well, are their bosses. And
Alex, if this bill was as good as they're claiming it is, you know how Washington works. Everyone would go around to every town in their district to brag about what they just passed. The fact that 203 of them are afraid to talk to their constituents tells you what an awful health care / giant tax cut for the wealthy bill that really was.
So last 30 seconds here, Representative Mark Pocan. Anything else that the grassroots should be focused on, or just words of encouragement and wisdom for them?
Yeah, I'll tell you, this movement around town halls, I think, is important. I don't care if you're a Democrat, Republican, Independent, you have to be accountable to your constituents. If you're not, then, people have to make their elected officials be accountable. I know it's a bumper sticker, but I used to have it on my car. If the people lead, eventually the leaders will follow. This is on us to make sure that we're holding them accountable.
Thanks so much for joining us on the Thom Hartmann Program. Representative Mark Pocan from the great state of Wisconsin.
Thank you, Alex.